discussion. With that, I would like to thank Peter Baum for joining us today and sharing that insight throughout our news. Now we move on to our next news. At least 13 people have been killed in an Israeli strike near a Palestinian refugee camp in southern Lebanon. The Israeli military says that it had targeted members of the Palestinian armed group Hamas operating in a training compound in the Ein El Hilweh area. Israel has carried out regular airstrikes on people and places in Lebanon since a deal to end the conflict with the Iran-backed armed group Hezbollah. Most strikes have targeted Hezbollah, but Israel has also attacked Hamas in the country. Meanwhile, IDF states that prior to the strike, measures were taken to reduce the chance of harm to civilians, including the use of precision munitions, aerial observations, and additional intelligence information. Meanwhile, Hamas claims that it has no military installations in the Palestinian refugee camps in Lebanon, dismissing Israel's announcements of having hit a Hamas training compound as lies. Hamas has also said that this strike targeted an open sports field used by residents of the camp, adding that there are no military establishments in refugee camps in Lebanon. The Israeli military occupies 5 posts within Lebanon and frequently carries out airstrikes in the country's south that it says are targeting Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah or sometimes has Hamas members. Now for this discussion, we welcome back Peter Baum. He's an editor at Weekly Blitz, joins us live from London. Thank you very much, Peter, for staying with us. Now, how do you think, what's the situation with this, and what are we to believe as both Israel and the Hamas? What are we to make of the conflicting narratives between Israel and Hamas over the presence of military installations?
Yeah, I've been following this story quite closely this morning with sources in Lebanon, Syria and Israel. There is no doubt from the sources and from the research that I've done that Israel definitely struck a Hamas training camp. Don't forget, Israel's intelligence is quite superb in the area, and they have allies in the area as well, especially amongst the Jewish community. They also have allies in the within the Lebanese Christian community and the anti-Hezbollah bloc. I think Hamas have made an error here by creating the conditions that is going to give further credibility to the Lebanese government in their attempts to disarm Hezbollah. The last thing Lebanon want, the last thing Syria want, and of course the last thing Israel wants is Hezbollah being supported by Hamas. That will be a red line, and none of those 3 nations would want to tolerate that. So it's definitely clear that there was a Hamas training facility. It was not an ordinary refugee camp where people were enjoying themselves and playing football in a field. There was a military operation going on there. And I think up to 13 Hamas operatives have been killed. Now, there was some suggestion that up to 4 civilians may have been killed. At this moment in time, that I cannot clarify. In an hour's time, perhaps I could, but I can't at the moment. But for sure, Israel did struck a Hamas training facility. Hamas operatives were killed, and the intelligence they received were from various sources before they undertook that action. So I think if this is going to be, if we're going to see more of this, if we're going to see more Hamas operatives going into another country to train, to equip themselves, and indeed to help the anti-Israeli militias and terrorists that are operating in either Syria or Lebanon, that could certainly create the conditions where a new conflict would be on the cards. But from the information I have, from the sources I have, you can ignore the Hamas statements that they didn't have any operatives there. They certainly did.
Right. Thank you very much, Peter, for joining us and sharing that insight throughout our news. Thank you very much.